Welcome to the Late Night Race Review. Verstappen equals Vettel's record of 9 wins in a row. Alonso's back, baby! Mercedes and Ferrari, how very Thelma and Louise of you. It's the Dutch Grand Prix. Don't forget to support the podcast by hitting those like, follow and subscribe buttons.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Late Night Race Review. I'm Dave Jericho, and with me, as always, is the trusty Isidro Gonzalez. And we are once again without Owen Scott. So everyone, feel free to get into the comments and berate Owen Scott for once again not joining us. But he missed out on what I'd say was actually a pretty decent race this weekend, which is sort of unusual given the season that we've had. We've had nothing but moaning to say about kind of the season that we've had so far. What did you think? I suppose, let me say, what do you think of the race so far? And then we'll start breaking down the key components.
I think it was a good race after the silly season. Not so silly. It was what we were expecting. Max winning once again and Ferrari messing up. And the surprise was Aston Martin, I have to say. That and the Williams team. Overall in the weekend, I think they did well.
Yeah, well, okay. We'll get into some of these teams now. I think, and you're right. The silly season was. What came out of the silly season? We really had. I think we heard about Carlos Sainz and in negotiations for a new contract, and that's really about it, wasn't it? It's a couple of kind of mad things that were never going to turn out, but there wasn't really. Usually every season we see some mental stuff coming out, and there wasn't anything this year.
Yeah, especially last year. Last year was very entertaining.
Oh, it was chaos. Yeah. Well, last year was the Oscar Piastri stuff as well, wasn't it? Yeah. All right. Well, we'd not rain, just a rain-soaked race. It was a mixture of rain and dry, which made it quite entertaining for us. And what I want to ask you about before we kind of get into individual kind of races individual driver races and teams and stuff like that is, what did you make at the second? So we had the second sort of dose of rain that came in, which brought out the red flag. And I'm kind of just wondering, initially when I saw the red flag come out, I was like, oh, geez, red flag, just as water on the track. As soon as they see water, it's a red flag. And I was just wondering, kind of, what do you think that was actually sort of just more a combination of Joe's car buried into the corner of turn one, accompanied by the rain, that they decided a full safety car still wasn't necessarily safe enough to sort of clear the wreckage? Or do you think, had Joe not crashed, were they going to bring out the red flag anyway?
No, I think the crash was what triggered the red flag. If everyone kept going and switched to wet tires, like Ocon was the only one thinking, Jesus, it's raining, I'm the only one with wet tires, what's wrong with you guys? I think if everyone went wet tires, we should have just a normal race without needing to have safety car or interrupting the race.
Do you think? I had a feeling that I got, given the amount of water that was on the track, I kind of got a feeling that they were going to, regardless of whether Joe crashed or not, I just had a feeling they were going to go for a red flag, because a lot of drivers were still trying to persevere with those inters, and it was getting a bit dangerous. They were skidding off kind of quite with some frequency. So, and I just had a feeling, even if Joe hadn't have crashed out, that they would have still probably brought out that red flag.
I think that's the problem. The wet tires are there to be used, and today was just, I know the drivers don't want to go to the pit lane and replace the tires, but today was the occasion that wet tires were really needed. It's just it's crazy that the wet tires are there today. It's raining. Oh, let's stop these and wait for a dry track. It's nonsense.
And what does Formula One do now going forward for the wet weather and stuff like that? Do they start chasing the sun with the calendar? Basically planning out the calendar as best as possible to kind of go to countries where, sort of, I suppose historically they don't get rain in those months that they're going to be landing there for the Formula One, or are they going to look at the sort of the the guards or mods to the cars to prevent the spray, which kind of looked the stuff that I saw looked a bit ridiculous. It looked like mud flaps on a bicycle.
I think if they want to do that, then they can just rid of the wet tires because they never been used. If they want to start planning ahead and see which countries have less rainfall over the year and just start planning around that.
Yeah,
but I think it's crazy. If they have the wet tires, just use it. Today was that. The problem was there was only one guy on track with wet tires. If the 19 drivers had wet tires, the race would keep going, and there will be much less water in the track.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. All right, well, let's jump into the race a little bit more. Obviously, just for those who weren't aware or are only catching up now, Liam Lawson obviously stepped in for Daniel Ricciardo after he had the incident in FP2 on Friday. Broke his hand, and I think the sort of current word is that he may have to undergo a little bit of surgery just to correct the injury. So hopefully he's back soon, because we were all looking forward to seeing what he could maybe deliver this season. Something tells me, given the AlphaTauri, he's probably not going to be delivering much more than Liam Lawson did. But anyway, we will wait and see. Chances are he's probably not going to be back for Monza either. We're probably going to see him back probably a little later than that. Anyway, that's the news as we know it. So Max Verstappen, again, the winner, like a broken record, but he equals Vettel's 9 wins in a row, going for 10 now, which will be setting new records altogether. I mean, what do we think of his race today? I mean, he definitely dominated. I mean, we saw after the first series of pit stops with the first downfall of rain, he was P13, and and sort of easily sort of made his way back up to P1. Obviously, then he had the second restart, and he kind of, maybe was put under a little bit of pressure from Alonso. And I think Alonso maybe cheekily in his post-race interview said that he sort of gave up the position or something. I think he didn't want to maybe, end up sort of wiping out and losing any chance of a podium. And I'll be honest, I don't know whether that was the case. I think maybe he deep down knew that, there was only so long he was going to be able to challenge for. But what did you make of Max's win? Was it all dominating, the all conquering Max Verstappen, or was there any wavering in that dominance today? That any weaknesses showing in any way?
I think he dominated, but not as easily as he did on the past races. I think for the past couple of weekends, he's not as comfortable. He still wins, but not as a big difference as was a big gap as he used to. And today was a bit different. In fact, the rain kind of messed up all the plans, but and the fact that it took him 13 laps to get to lead the race, it says something that it will not be an easy end of the season for him. But I don't think he cares about that. He already won the championship.
And do you think that's
theory?
But do you think that's sort of part and parcel of it then, that he has won? Like you say, in theory, we all know he's going to win the world championship this year. But do you think he sort of knows that, and he sort of he's taking his foot off the pedal as it were, but not out of confidence or laziness or anything like that, but sort of knows he has this in the bag and he doesn't need to push it as hard. He knows sort of, at 80% of his ability, he can still win a race and doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be going 100% all the time, because he can still win a race at 80 or 90%. Do you think he's taking his foot off the gas a bit there?
Yeah, if I was in his position, I would prefer just keep breaking the records and just finishing the races and just lead with a comfortable enough advantage to get the podium every single time. But right now, I don't think there's a need for him to just push the car over and over in each race.
Yeah, I
agree.
It's
just easier to keep going, break record after record, and because there's no competition, so you can just cruise every weekend. and not
That's
taking foolish mistakes.
And like you say, he'd be breaking record after record, and he's going to keep breaking records, even if he is only competing at 80%. If he does have his foot off the gas, I mean, I don't think there's going to be any doubt in that. And I think, I think when we get to Monza, we're going to see him get that 10 in a row, short of something kind of out of the ordinary happening at Monza. I don't see anybody competing with him there. And in terms of someone that you would assume would compete with him, it would be his teammate in that sort of in that sister car, or not in the sister car, but in his the other car for Red Bull. And like Perez, for me, I mean, not quite a recovery drive, and I think we have slightly differing opinions on how Perez performed this weekend, but not quite a recovery drive. But for me, like, he started P7, which I don't think was a very great starting position for that car. I think he definitely should have been higher up on the grid, even, maybe another row up. But I mean, like, when Max Verstappen came out after the first stops, he was P13. Perez was already pushing up to P1 to lead the race. Both of them were out on inters at that stage when Perez was leading the race. Max easily cruised up, catching him by seconds per lap on the same set of tires. And then you've got Perez finishing P4, granted with a 5-second penalty. So without that, possibly would have ended up P2, but finished, that 5-second penalty again was his mistake of speeding in the pit lane. And he just seems to be full of these mistakes from qualifying to, happening in the race here. And I'm going to just keep going on before I ask you a question, just to drive home my concern with Perez. Even when it came to the pit stops today, and Perez complained about Verstappen being brought in first and giving him the undercut on Perez, and Perez then realizing he's lost track position after his pit stop, Verstappen had obviously overtaken him or got the undercut on him. That shows me that says to me as a spectator that the Red Bull team have more confidence in Max Verstappen bringing the race win home than they did or would with Sergio Perez. And hence, obviously, gave him the favorable strategy or gave him the early calls. And clearly, obviously, there's a number one and number two driver there. So let's start. I know I've unpacked a lot there, but I just wanted to sort of drive home my concerns with Perez. So let's start with what did you make first of his race today before we kind of go on to the rest of it?
I think Perez was doing a good race until the red flag, and he pit for tires, and then he just got stuck at the end of the pit lane. And I think that what mess up his I don't know, maybe his state of mind, his confidence, because after that it was just a nightmare for him. He just dropped and finished 4. And I think that was, but until then I think he was doing okay. Not a race to be a winner, but enough to get the podium. And the fact that Max went first while Perez was a race leader, Max went to change the tires first before Perez. And that was a Red Bull decision, not even Max asking first, but it was Red Bull itself saying Max goes first and then.
But does that show you the confidence, though? That's
yeah. And that kind of proves what you're saying. Even Red Bull knows that Perez doesn't have what it needs to get to the end, get the first place.
Which
He's
is
maybe good enough to get the podium, but not good enough to get the points to be the first place. And that shows in these decisions, favoring Max over Perez all the time.
And completely, I think as well that, and that's and that's sort of exactly what I'm saying. Like, and good enough to get the podium isn't necessarily good enough for Red Bull, and definitely not good enough for Helmut Marko. And we thought after his sort of poor sort of performances, after he got those early kind of race wins early in the season, and then just went on that series of poor qualifying, we kind of thought, this guy's going to step it up now. We're going to start seeing sort of what we saw before, where he was battling sort of more regularly for race wins and putting Max under a little bit more pressure. But I don't know whether it's Max has stepped up his game to such a level and Perez has sort of stepped back ever so slightly, or Max was always as good as he is, and Perez has just dropped off the boil to such a degree that we're seeing kind of like that the team not having the confidence to say, do you know what, he's leading the race, we're going to give him the favorable strategy, and you know, and that's it. There's no need to have team orders at that stage. Yeah, I think. Do you think he's going to recover now for the rest of, say, maybe Monza? What do you expect from him in Monza? Given that, you know, it's not too many corners on there for him to mess up on.
Yeah, I think his confidence levels are very low at the moment. Lack of confidence in himself, in the team. So I'm not sure he'll be able to perform as he did in the beginning of the season, that he was fighting with Max, getting the first position, second position, was there getting points. But now I think his confidence, and today the fact that the team decided that, look, you are not getting anything out of this race this weekend, you're going to give it to Max, that doesn't help either. So I'm not confident that Perez will be doing better until the end of the race, until the end of the season.
Yeah, and yeah, unfortunately, I would see it the same. I would see it the same. But look, he P4. I mean, he's got the points. I mean, I just quickly want to check actually, where does that leave? Let me just quickly go to the driver standings here. Give me a quick second here. I just want to see where that leaves everybody. So, I mean, it's still, I mean, that's putting him, he's still just shy, was he 30, let me see, what is he, 34, 33 points ahead of Alonso. I'll be sure. And so actually that's actually a nice segue actually for me. So he's 33 points ahead of Alonso, and let's jump on to Aston Martin there, because that's a team that sort of dropped off quite considerably when the upgrades came in. We'll get to Lance Stroll. Obviously, not both drivers are at their peak of their powers at the moment, but Fernando Alonso he's able to deliver in that car. Whatever that car can give, he will squeeze it out of it. Started P5, had a pretty strong race all the way through. Finished P2. Probably maybe didn't make the right call, maybe waiting the extra lap before they came into the pit stops, but they recovered fine, and like I said, got that P2, which fantastic bounce back for Aston Martin. What do you think? Like, I mean, that from where they were, you know, that sort of started to drift into no man's land, looked like, say, the Mercedes and McLaren had overtaken them in the development side of things, to be to finish in P2 and having a reasonably strong qualifying as well.
Yeah, it seems that the break was very good for Aston Martin. They were able to learn a few things, I hope, and today Alonso was able to show that the car might be back to the same levels that it was at the beginning. But I'm not sure this weekend was enough to show the improvements on the Aston Martin. Alonso did great considering everything, the rain, the accidents, everything. Alonso was very good. The P2 is well deserved for him, and it shows that the Aston Martin is probably back there again, fighting for the second place in the constructors.
And you're right, you were saying there that you're not 100% convinced though whether like they're fully there. Like, I mean, you're, like you said, they're possibly there to get that P2 in the constructors. But you're right. I suppose we have to keep in mind as well that the conditions this weekend, and especially on the race conditions, are very much favored by Alonso. These are conditions he very much enjoys. He enjoys the variation in a race. He's very confident in the wet. Very much understands his car and how far he can push it. So we have to, I suppose, take that with a little bit of pinch of salt. But then again, there is drivers that were behind him who are also experts in the wet. You had Lando Norris, you've Lewis Hamilton. All these drivers are phenomenal in wet conditions as well. So, but yeah, hopefully, like it would be great to see Aston Martin again back competing regularly for the podiums. But we're talking about that now, competing regularly for the podiums for Fernando Alonso. But Lance Stroll, I mean, he was pretty much non-existent this weekend. we know he had some sort of an illness. Turned out some sort of an infection. What that was, or what that entails, or how ill he was, we don't know. But do you think that in any way sort of lended to his performance this weekend, or do you think this is sort of the level that we can expect from Lance Stroll now for the remainder of the season?
I think you're very nice to say he was invisible this weekend. For me, Stroll has been invisible almost the whole of the season.
Yeah.
If Aston Martin is fighting for the second place in the constructors, that's thanks to Alonso. Stroll, I barely made a solid contribution to those points. If Stroll wants to make an effort and a contribution to the team, he should just rest for 3 or 4 weekends and let Drugovic race and see where it goes, because I don't think Stroll is doing any favors driving every weekend like he is at the moment. And if he is in pain, if he has health issues, the smart decision would be, look, I'm not well, I'm not 100%, I'm damaging the team, I'll just leave for
a race or 2 race or whatever. Yeah,
and then come back. That would show more maturity and respect for the team. To be the bigger man, say, look, I'm not good, I need to rest, I need to just take 2 or 3 weekends off, get my health back there, and then go back, because doing what he's doing right now is not helping anyone.
Agreed. And I'd be wondering as well, like, I mean, if Alonso is constantly kind of getting those podium positions and Lance Stroll is struggling to get inside the top 10, it'll be a tough decision for Lawrence and the rest of the team to make as to what his position will be next year. Do you give him another year to see if that recovers, or do you maybe bump him down to a reserve driver for a year and give one of the other guys a shout? But yeah, it's this seems to be a fairly consistent theme for Lance Stroll this season.
I think that all the teams, when they face these sort of decisions, they should ask themselves what Marco would say.
Yeah. Well, we know what he'd say. He would have been gone in the summer break. He wouldn't have even made it back after the summer break.
Yeah, I think that teams should start doing that. What Helmut Marko would say about this.
Exactly. All right. Well, I mean, that's I suppose we must, I don't actually have in my notes, but we have to touch on them because he finished P3, Pierre Gasly. The Alpines, both drivers in the top 10. Pierre Gasly, P3, had a great drive, had some great battles with Carlos Sainz, really aggressive. I think we always knew Pierre Gasly was a good driver. I mean, he was good in AlphaTauri. He won, I think, he win Monza, I think it was, for AlphaTauri, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we know he has that ability. And today, yeah, I just think under the conditions, it would be very easily for to come sort of P10, P9 and say he had a good race. But P3, what do you make of it? I thought he had a fantastic race today.
Yeah, I think Gasly had like I said, a fantastic race. He started from P12 and ended up in the podium with rain and everything in between, and he still managed to finish third today. And like I said, he's a very aggressive driver, and it shows on the track. And it was a well-deserved victory for him at the podium in all these conditions.
And what about his teammate Ocon? I mean, sort of stay sort of. Well, I'm pretty sure he was sort of mid pack all race. I mean, it again didn't set the race alight, but I mean, it was consistent. I think he finished P10. I think he got some, picked up the trailing points for the team. It was consistent. Didn't make any mistakes. Yeah.
Ocon did a solid race. Nothing to show about. I mean, he got the P10 almost in the last laps.
Yeah.
because most of the time he was just up and down, up and down. And the fact that he started on P16 didn't help either. But again, Gasly was just 4 places above and he got the podium. So overall, I think it was a very good weekend for the Alpine.
Yeah, I think so as well. But for a team that it wasn't a great weekend for, and it doesn't seem, I'll be honest, I can't even remember when we last said it was a good weekend for them, is Ferrari. Which I suppose is contradicting in itself because obviously Carlos Sainz finished P5, I think it was. And who do I start with? Leclerc, or I suppose Carlos Sainz finished the race. So let's start with Carlos Sainz. I think it was strange. He had a great race. I expected, it just felt like there was more to give from that Ferrari. Like at times you were seeing that he was gaining on positions, then he was under pressure, then he was in a couple of good battles with Gasly. He was under, he did some fantastic defending against Lewis Hamilton in the later laps as well to hold on to that P5, because I'll be honest, I think Hamilton, had he been a little bit more ballsier, would have taken that position. But I just, I don't know. I don't know whether the confidence is there. He's just not wringing enough out of it. When you look at someone like Albon in the Williams, and you see or Alonso in the Aston Martin, they're drivers that are extracting every last drop from their car. And Carlos Sainz, I just don't feel that he. I think he has the potential. I think he's definitely a driver they should hold on to. But I just don't feel like he's maybe quite got that confidence to wring the neck of the car to get the extra position.
I think it doesn't have the confidence in the car and the confidence in the team the way that Alonso has in Aston Martin and Albon has in Williams. I mean, if you don't trust your team, if you don't trust your car, you're always afraid. If I push now, will the car break? Will the wheel pop out? Or
yeah,
you never know.
Will the pit lane implode?
Yeah, just lack of confidence, and that shows on the track. That the car might give more, but he's just afraid. What's going to do if I just push this car? Will I finish the race, or to be a DNF for me?
Yeah, so it's true.
Lack of confidence.
But I think and we said this. I think we said this last season, and we certainly said it at the start of this season, that when we were talking about who was the number 1 driver and who was the number 2 driver at Ferrari, we were always kind of we were initially under the illusion that it was Leclerc and then Carlos Sainz. But there was a moment. I'm trying to think. Was it last season? Towards the later half of last season, I can't quite recall which race it was, and I remember us talking on the podcast where we felt that there was that shift happening, that we felt that Carlos Sainz was actually the more stable, the more sort of now don't get me wrong, he has his moments and he has his kind of flare-ups and stuff, but it is starting to strike me that Carlos Sainz is the one that Ferrari want to hold on to at all costs, which, given the sort of the rumors that are coming out that they're in negotiations for a new contract with him, would make sense. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think Ferrari wants to hold to Sainz, but I don't think Sainz wants to stay in Ferrari, because if he doesn't trust the team, if he doesn't trust the car, he's
very
saying,
true.
What I'm doing here, I need to be in the team that I can trust, a team that has a car that I can trust, and I know I can push much more of the car, and knowing that nothing bad will happen.
And he hasn't had stability since he's been at Ferrari. Like, there's been no stability at that team, between kind of rifling through team principles, between the pit walls changing, the car going through reliability issues, performance issues. Like, he's never had a car where he's had a straight run at being able to compete and have, like you say, have confidence in it. So I wonder, I mean, I know we're sort of rolling in silly season into our review here, but I mean, I wonder where he goes. Like, if he doesn't stay with Ferrari, I mean, there's not much open other than possibly Perez's seat at Red Bull. But I mean, that would be a difficult one to prize a Ferrari driver away from Ferrari to go to Red Bull. That would be an absolute earth-shaking transfer. That would be.
Yeah, that not an easy transfer, but for for the fans, it would be great to see Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz every weekend just getting P1, P2 for sure.
Yeah.
Because the Sainz would be confident in that car and most likely in that team if they prove that he's part of the team and he can trust. And Perez in Ferrari, and I'm not sure.
And so, and then we'll briefly just touch on Leclerc, like, and I mean, I just feel his time at Ferrari is sort of, I won't say his days are numbered. That's a bit dramatic, like, but I just think he's less focused than Carlos Sainz. Yeah, obviously he's frustrated with what's going on at the team and stuff like that. Whereas Leclerc it seems to be coming out more in his performances and his attitude. And I think just even as well today with that's kind of whole pit stop sort of debacle with the first pit stops under the rain conditions, and sort of the team wanted him to stay out, and he had already turned, even though the team had told him to stay out before he had come round to the pit entry, he pulled into the pit entry anyway, and then told them on the radio that he was coming in while he was already sort of entering the pit lane. I mean, that just said, like, that's absolute. That's you can't do that. Like, I mean, both are wrong. Like, both like, if he had stayed out, it was the wrong decision from Ferrari to keep him out. I mean, it was the right decision to come in, but the problem was nobody actually knew he was coming in, and as a result, we saw the fumbling of of Ferrari mechanics looking for wheels, and I saw one of them coming out with holding the wheel in the wrong way, had to turn it around to get it on the car, and you're like, oh my days, they are absolute disasters. Like, and I don't know, ultimately I just don't feel there's a long-term future like this. I don't think this is going to continue on for too much longer with Leclerc. I don't think he's too emotional. I think he will want to move. He's kind of like almost like Daniel Ricciardo will happily bounce to the next team, even though, like Sebastian Vettel, it was the dream to win titles or win races with Ferrari. Ultimately, I'd say if there's an opportunity, maybe in that Aston Martin, maybe in Lance Stroll's seat or something like that, or maybe if Alonso retires, maybe if Aston Martin I mean, at the moment, Aston Martin are more competitive from Ferrari, so who knows? Maybe that's a position for him to go to and get away from what looks like just a toxic environment. It just reminds me of when Vettel was there. It just, there was no love between driver and team, and yeah, I know I'm kind of rambling here, but that's what did you think of his day today? I mean, obviously it was a DNF at the end. Yeah, what's your take on it?
Yeah, there's definitely some issues with the team. The fact that the communication between Leclerc and the team was just as late as he's driving down the pit lane at 60 kilometers per hour, and he's saying, "Look, I'm coming, and I want inter tires." And now everyone in Ferrari is just headless chicken running around trying to find out where are the tires. We have 4 tires even, because we know they can count. So it was messy, and I think that shows that Leclerc it's not happy. I mean, the communication between the team and the driver should be always clear, and today it was proved that's not the case. Ferrari and Leclerc are definitely not talking. Today it proved that point. I mean, who gets a driver into the pit lane without knowing what tires are waiting for him? And the fact that then he had the floor damage, and it took the team almost the rest of the race to figure out that there was something wrong with the car. I mean, they should know that the car there was an issue and just retire him rather than let the man just drive around losing positions over and over and over until just retire. We know that you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So we're jumping then now from one team that's sort of shit the bed to another. Mercedes. Oh dear, where do we start here? I mean, I think if there's a team that's sort of created their own downfall today. I think it was Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton had a poor performance. I think his qualifying position was due to being impeded by Yuki Tsunoda. I can't quite remember. I remember there was some issue about that, but
Tsunoda was for position because of that.
That was the reason for Hamilton ended up P13, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. So all right. Well, that clears that up. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. But I mean, I think he had a lot of work to do, Lewis. But I think he did a good drive. I think we talked about it when we were talking about Carlos Sainz. I think maybe he could have been a bit ballsier on his attack to Carlos Sainz. But I suppose at that moment, do you really want to risk? You've got P6 or P5. Do you really want to risk the position? Is it really worth that much to you where it could easily wipe both of you out? What did you think about? We'll start with I suppose the driver that kind of sort of came away with the better result today, Lewis Hamilton. What did you think of his drive today? Could he have done better? Could he have done worse? Was he hindered by his team?
I think it was a bit of everything. The weather wasn't good. He wasn't feel happy with the car. And considering everything, I think he was just driving just enough to get the points. Try to get more than he can get. I mean, could fight Sainz to get 2 or 3 more points, but that could end up him getting the grass, hitting the barriers. And I think it's safer just to get the P6 than try to get the P5 and end up in the barriers. And then there's no points for anyone because Russell was just invisible, not what he was expecting for sure.
Well, and on Russell there, I mean, it was an interesting one because I mean he started on P3, I think it was today, wasn't it? Yeah, P3 because Albon was P4, so P3 start on the grid, and I think we talked about this before, and actually, here's a question: if anybody knows what happened to George Russell, because I think we both missed something here in the race. So, but he came in for his pit stops. I think he was P2, P3 when he came in for his pit stop, and then when he came back out again, he was 58 seconds back, and during that pit stop, Sky or the race director decided to show the race restarts, Leclerc's poor pit stop, Tsunoda's poor pit stop, and then magically George Russell came out in P18th. So I was just wondering if anybody has any information on that, put it into the comments on YouTube and let us know. But that being said, I mean, he was up against it. I mean, once he came out in P18, I think we knew his race was over. I mean, he came out on the radio. He was expecting a podium today. He was expecting probably even to challenge maybe at the top end with the weather that was coming, with the rain weather. He's great in the wet weather. So maybe he was thinking he could even challenge for a win. But Jesus, what do you think happened to him today? Have you any black ball kind of to look into there to see what the hell happened?
It was just a bad luck. I think the timing of the pit was not the best for him. He was doing great, and then he switched to hard tires, and that was the end of it. Then maybe halfway, he was doing well. I mean, at the time, there was Hamilton and Russell, P6 and P7, I think. But then Russell got the puncture, I believe.
Yeah, on the restart.
And I thought he was going DNF, but actually just went to pit lane, replace, and, well, that didn't change the outcome. He still finished last.
Well, when you said about going to the hard tires, I actually thought when I saw the hard tires going on first, I kind of thought, oh, Jesus, but I was like, okay, they don't have much of an option here. He's P18, where, a lot of drivers out of position, so it wasn't going to be an easy grid to make his way through in anyway. So, rolling the dice, it was sort of the last thing they could do, go with hard tires and see if he can get to the end of the race. It did look like it was starting to come back to him at one point. I think he was sort of up around the P7, P8, something like that. He had Albon and a few other drivers kind of catching him behind. So, yeah, it did start looking like it was coming to him, and then it sort of started tailing off then. And then, of course, we had the safety car then with Joe's crash in the rain. and then on the restart then ended up with a puncture, and that was the end of it. But I think he was did he get a classified finish? I thought he actually same as yourself. I thought
he got a classified finish, but still last.
Did he? Let me check.
Yeah, he finished.
He did P17, yeah. But I honestly, that shows where I was or where he was. I genuinely thought he'd retired. I thought he pulled into pit lane with the puncture, and I thought he ended up with additional damage. It wasn't just the puncture, because I thought it was the puncture he got was when he tangled with Lando Norris. Was it? Was that where he got the puncture? So I assumed when he came in, I thought that because I think the commentators actually said he had, that they were retiring the car.
Yeah, because he said on the radio, "I'm out," and I thought, okay, he's gonna just.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. It wasn't the commentator. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, it was over the team radio. He said he was out. So yeah, I just assumed, maybe he had actually kind of got some floor damage or some suspension damage or something like that, or one of the wishbones or something. But either way, I think that's definitely a weekend to forget for Mercedes. Every weekend we're wondering when they're going to become consistent and start battling up the front. But I think realistically, I think at the start of the season, I thought it was going to be kind of towards the back end of the season. They looked like they were making progress. We heard that famous line from Toto Wolff: "We now understand the car and we now understand our direction." And I think the direction was to the skip and throw the car out, because I think we're not going to see anything from Mercedes realistically in any way of a challenge until next season. So that's a bit unfortunate. But before we wrap up, let's kind of just talk about a few honorable mentions here. Liam Lawson, sort of made his debut in place of Daniel Ricciardo today. Started P19, ended up P13, ahead of his teammate Tsunoda. I know what you're going to say there about why he finished ahead of his teammate Tsunoda, but you can only get a result with what's going on around you. So, but what do you think? I think that was a fairly solid. He didn't finish at the back of the grid. He didn't crash out, and that was really challenging conditions to race in. And he did better than Logan Sargent did, who binned his car twice this weekend. So, what did you make of Liam Lawson?
I think it was a very good debut race for him, considering that he had to jump the seat on Friday after the crash.
Well, he would have got the news Friday, and then Saturday morning he was straight in for FP3, wasn't he?
Yeah. So not much time to get used to the car. The fact that he finished the race, respectable 13 for the first time. It's all very good for him.
Yeah,
things are looking good. Not so good for Tsunoda, but was a bad weekend for him.
Yeah, I just don't think so. I never really thought Tsunoda. It just seems like he's reached his level or something like that. That's just sort of where he's at, and I'm not much. I don't really like the Netflix show and stuff like that. But in it, there was that interview with him where he sort of was talking about how much he doesn't like training and all that type of stuff. And I don't know, a lot of these drivers sort of give everything to the sport, and Yuki Tsunoda, it seems to be very hard for him to do that. But anyway, that's we don't need to beat on Yuki Tsunoda for no reason today. But our other honorable mention, Alex Albon. Honorable mention because he started P4, obviously tailed back due to the pit stops and stuff like that. Came out, he decided to sort of drive through the wet, and decided that he was going to just plow on until the track dried up, which he did, and it started coming to me. I mean, he did 39-40 laps easy on those soft tires, and then through another I don't know what he ended up on then towards the end. Obviously probably Inters, obviously everybody ended up on Inters, but the point is he recovered. Then I think he finished P8 today, was it?
Yeah, P8.
So I'll be honest, I mean, that was he could have easily just finished at the back of the grid today, and P8 points finish. I think it was a great drive, and not just the honorable mention for the drive today, but I think just the qualifying P4, sort of that matched his sort of his personal best qualifying. What was your take on Alex Albon?
Alex Albon, the tire whisperer. He did great this weekend. The fact that he was able to hold on to those soft tires as long as he could, it proves that he knows the car very, very well. He knows what to do to keep the tires as long as he can, and it's a solid race. I mean,
Yeah.
he started before, but I was not expecting the Williams to be able to keep that position for too long. The start was not that good. Alonso was better positioned on the track, and Russell was there as well.
Yeah.
But overall, I think Albon did, with the car that he has and his experience, I think it was very good.
I'm expecting big things.
Weekend.
Yeah, and I'm expecting big things from Albon in at Monza next time out. All right, our usual before we finish up. Who was the loser of the day? Who was the driver of the day? I'll let you go first, Isidro. Who was your loser of the day? No, actually, let's go with the driver of the day first.
Driver of the day for me will be Lawson.
Really? Okay, that's not who I was expecting you to go with. Obviously, the official driver of the day was Alonso. So you're going with Lawson as their driver of the day. Any justification?
Because it was his first race. He's not used to the car as well as the other 19 drivers on track. And yet he was able to sit down, go 72 laps and finish the race. I mean, Sargent wasn't able to do the same, and he's been there since the beginning of the season. So
true. Yeah, very true. Very true. No, I will absolutely, I give you that. I think he had a fantastic race. And like you say, to be able to finish ahead of his teammates in such tricky conditions and under the circumstances, I think it was great. My drive of the day, I went with Alex Albon. I just thought it was, he recovered well. I think he got those soft tires to last a hell of a long time. And then finished with the points position where he could easily have folded and ended up well outside the points. So, I'm going to give my drive of the day to Alex Albon. Loser of the day, Isidro. Who's your loser of the
Russell.
day? Oh, yes. I mean, I don't think we have to.
On the solid position.
Second row of the grid, yeah.
You were there in P3 and you end up in P17. So
yeah. Well, I mean, look, I'll be honest. I can jump straight in here. My loser of the day was George Russell as well. However, I just put a little in brackets beside it. Honorary mention as for loser of the day goes to Logan Sargent, and that is purely because he binned it twice this weekend. And I'd say Williams are ready to do a Haas on, like Haas did with Mick Schumacher, and say you're costing us a fortune, time to leave. So
it was funny that the commentator was saying that Sargent was sitting on the rain, like he was afraid of going to the mechanics after crashing the car twice in the same weekend.
Exactly.
He just didn't want to confront them.
Yeah, exactly. That was that was an expensive weekend for Williams. All right, well, look, that wraps up our review for the Dutch Grand Prix. So let us go on to the predictions game. I look, and I'll be honest, everyone, we have the F1 Fantasy. There is absolutely no point in me trying to call it out because if you listen each week that the results are never in by the time we're recording. So I will just publish the results when we publish the podcast up on our Instagram. So predictions game. Let me just get up the predictions. Okay. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to actually need the results of the race up here because there's a couple of here that I'm going to have to just double check. All right. Okay, let's see here. So, right, we'll go with me first. I had Verstappen P1. That was a given. Perez P2. Came close, but no cigar. And Lando Norris P3. Close. No cigar. Scotty also went with Verstappen P1, Perez P2. That did not happen. And Charles Leclerc P3. That was ambitious and did not happen. Zero. Who did you go with?
Verstappen first.
Yep.
Perez second.
Yep.
And Piastri third.
Jesus. Well, we all did.
The McLaren train.
Yeah, we all did absolutely horrific there for our podium positions. So, right. So my flop. Hang on a second. Let me just double check everything here. Yeah. So I went.
Flop.
Was that? No, I didn't.
Flop.
Yeah, it's I went Piastri outside top 10, and he didn't. He finished inside the top 10, didn't he? Ninth.
Just 3 fish, 9. Yeah.
Yeah, so goose egg there for me. Scotty's flop was Alonso outside the top 10. Another big flop there.
Yeah.
And Jesus,
Jeez.
we
Yeah,
all
another
did
one.
brutal.
Gasly, DNF.
That's
We
another
had a podium.
good Jesus. Okay, good Lord, we were brutal this week. Okay, surprises. Both Alpines inside the top 10. Way, at least I got that.
That was a big surprise.
That was a that should have I should have got the I should have put there the double points for that one, but no.
Although it was close, Ocon was almost out of the top 10.
Yeah. And he just squeaked in, all right. All right. Surprise from Scotty was Joe inside the top 10. No, that did not happen, Scotty. And Zero,
Albon, top 10.
which you got
P8.
that as well. P8. So
Yeah.
we shared the points this week. That is Scotty dropping down the table. Let's see now. What's the tables looking like?
That's what
So,
I got, Scotty.
Yeah, you gotta
Not
start.
here.
Just gotta start showing up here. So that's me on 8 points, Zero on 7 points, and Scotty now at the bottom of the table on 6 points. Looking grim, Scotty. Looking grim. All right, so we moved to Italy. We're at Monza now next time. Actually, is Monza, is it next week? Is it next weekend, or do we have a week? Ooh, nice. Okay. Thought we had 2 weeks of a break. All right. Yeah, Scotty has his results in, or not his results, his predictions in there via WhatsApp, the most reliable way of getting your predictions into us. Okay, sorry, let me just bring up my predictions. Good Lord, I'm about as organized here as a fart in a bath. Okay. So, my top 10. Oh, God, I didn't put much thought into this by the looks of it. Okay, I went with, Verstappen P1. Now, P2, I think I'm going to have to switch this around before I call it out. Yeah, I'm going to go Alonso P2, and I'm going to go Hamilton P3. I'll be honest, I'll call out what I originally had. I originally had Verstappen P1, Lando Norris P2, and Alonso P3. But I just think that McLaren is still a bit draggy, isn't it? On the fast kind of straights and stuff like that. So I'm just thinking. I'll be honest. When I actually originally started this, I was gonna get ballsy and put fucking Albon at P3. I
not be far of it. I can see Williams getting the podium, although it's not my prediction.
Yeah. Well,
So
do you want to call out Scotty's predictions, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I'll call Scotty.
Okay.
Scotty has Verstappen first.
Verstappen P1, yeah.
Norris second.
Oh, okay. That's it was Norris I had originally second. Yeah. So okay, he's on the same train of thought I had. Oh my God.
Third.
Oh my God, Scotty. Based off today's race, I can see why he put Leclerc third. Okay. Who are you going with, Isidro?
First, Max Verstappen.
No one's gonna chance not.
Given.
Yeah, no one's gonna chance not calling him P1, are they?
Second, Alonso.
Yeah. And
Third, Norris.
Norris, yeah. I might regret that. I might regret not having Norris in my podium.
I was planning to put Piastri like I did my previous prediction, but I'm going with Norris.
Yeah, I think that you could be on something there, but we'll see. Okay, I'm going with what's next? Our flop is next. Okay, so I'm gonna go. I don't know whether you're gonna give this. Well, you should give it to me. So I'm going with Ferraris, both Ferraris, right? But I'm going with, and I'm not calling which driver. So this is why I'm just wondering whether you're going to give it to me or not. So I'm going to go with one Ferrari with a DNF and one Ferrari outside the top 10. So basically no points scored at their home circuit.
Oh. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah, I know it's not too far fetched from reality. All right, who's Scotty gone with then for his flop?
Lewis Hamilton outside top 10.
Hamilton. outside top 10. All righty. And who have you gone with, Isidro?
My flop is Piastri, outside top 10.
Piastri, outside top 10. Okay.
It just makes sense because I'm saying Norris doing a podium, but Piastri will be far back.
I'll be honest, like it's all just kind of throw something in the air and see what you can catch. Like it's there's not, other than the podium positions, the flop and surprises, sometimes there's not too much science behind it. All right, my surprise though, I'm going with Albon, and I'm going with P6. So do I get any extra points if he gets that position, or is that just 1 point still?
Because you need the position, otherwise
I did give the position P6.
Yeah, so you don't get anything special for that.
Do I not? What did we used to do then? We remember earlier we said
because Albon is already inside the top 10. He finished P8. So if
yeah, okay. But no, what were we doing? Do you remember there was previous races where we said, oh, if that comes off, you get double points for that. Do you remember?
That was for DNF or crash or puncture.
Oh, if you called the reason for the Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, okay. All right, never mind. Okay. Well, I've gone with the Albon P6 anyway. So what was Scotty's surprise?
Yuki inside top 10.
Oh, for God's sake, is he even trying anymore?
Yuki will be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. All right, okay, moving on. What did you have for your surprise?
My surprise is that it's also Albon inside top 10, but in the P7.
P7. All righty. Well, someone's going to be we're either both going to be wrong or one of us is going to be right. All right, perfect. I think that's it, is it? That's have I covered everything? Now that we don't have Scotty fucking in the hot seat, fucking running the show, I don't think I've missed anything today. I think that's it. Yeah, I think we're done. All right, perfect. Well, we will be back next week. God only knows whether Scotty's going to be here with us. That's you guys listening will know just as much as we do whether he's going to be here or not. But we will be back for Monza next week. Ideally, we will be here with Scotty. And so until then, hopefully we get another good race.